Welcome to another episode of Journeys of Not So Ordinary People. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz. We have with us our other co-host, Dr. Joe Hamlet. How you doing today, Joe?
I'm good. I'm good, Dave. I'm very good. I know we go through this every single time, but I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Excited about everything going on. So have no complaints at all.
That's most excellent. That's what we like to hear. Today's topic is the importance of networking. Not net, I guess net worthing, but networking.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and kick us off. So networking, why is networking important? We've been asked this question before, and it really boils down to it's really how you get things done. I mean, we don't know everything ourselves, very few of us do. And it's important to know internally for your job who you can talk to and rely upon to get things done, especially if you're a supervisor. Just because you're a supervisor or a manager or leader doesn't mean that you're an expert in everything in that field. If it's labor estimating, or if it's marketing, or whether it's being a director of something or whatever, maybe an electrician, doesn't mean that, just because you're a residential electrician doesn't mean that you can be an electrician on a cruise ship or, high-rise skyscrapers. Maybe you can, I don't know, but generally, these big fields parse down into much narrower fields, and that's where where expertise comes in. So networking is important to help us understand what we can do and what we can't do. And those things that we can't do or do not know how to do or do as well as other people allows us to reach out to those other folks to help us and assist us. And that's where you start forming those team relationships or those bonds with, hey, Dave's really good at this, let's talk to him about that. And Joe's really good at that, so let's talk to him for that. And that's really what Joe and I have done with our partnership. Is Joe's really, really good and has specialized in career development or personal development. I'm sorry. I've kind of specialized in the career development side of things. And our crossover is professional development. So we've got personal, career, and then professionals kind of in the middle where our overlap occurs. So there are strengths. It really gets down to understanding your strengths and the areas of opportunity, and whether you're willing to go and extend yourself into those areas that you're uncomfortable with or you do not know about or have less knowledge in, or whether you're going to bring in other folks or members of your team to assist you. So that's kind of it as an introduction to what we're going to talk about at a high level. Joe, what would you like to add to that?
So I think one of the things that you mentioned, I think is very important. And it goes back to, you mentioned the team. And I'm going to refer to the team building concept, an idea that, say I'm a supervisor or a leader of an organization, and I'm going to build a team. I'm typically going to look for people that has those areas of expertise as you just described. So for me, I think is very important, and this goes along with most things you want to accomplish, is those relationships. Building those relationships. You touched on it. You may be an expert in this, and you showed, example of me and you. Like you say, I'm more on the personal development side. You're more the career development, but we overlap in the middle with professional development. And so it wouldn't make sense if I was both, me and you both were career development, then we're lacking a piece of that puzzle. So that's the way I view it, as when we start to put together our teams and developing people and thinking about how important that networking piece is, gaining a good understanding of what people bring to the table. And like you say, it may be the area that you're weak in, or it may just be a compliment to what you already offer that other person offers. So networking is going to give you that opportunity to start to understand that. So you can start putting people, not necessarily put them in boxes, but you can put them in categories that you can reach out to. And like you said, that's kind of how we started our partnership, our friendship, even just networking. We reached out on a platform, and we realized we had a lot of things in common that overlap, and then also things that we still saw that we were, short on. So understanding, and I think you said it too, understanding your strengths and weaknesses is part of that. Understanding, I think we both have said it. We're not marketers to a certain degree. That's not our strength. So as we continue to grow and develop, we'll probably reach out to somebody who has those strengths to help us with that. So big part of that is understanding where you are in this, and that's going to help you with your networking, not necessarily just with like your job, but also networking outside of your job, networking. And right now, this is the time to network. I mean, you have different platforms you can reach out and meet different people and experience different things. Even us, me and Dave sitting here on a podcast, reaching out to all of you. This could turn into something else much bigger. Somebody viewing this episode or listening to us may reach out and say, hey, would you like to collaborate on something else? So again, networking and really being open to networking. On one of the platforms I'm on, people reach out to me all the time. And I may not know them, but I'm always welcoming that interaction, just because you never know what it's going to turn into. And so networking is key. And you said it, I think, early on, we can't do everything ourselves. So, but if we do know other people that can do those things or something similar to it, then we're still golden, because we can still get something accomplished. Because again, we may not know how to do it, but we know somebody who can. Yeah. And so that crosses, not just your working environment, but your home environment, your life. You start to build that network of people that you can reach out to and that you can trust, and vice versa. They can reach out to you for different things. So that's very important as far as networking. So anything else, Dave, that you think about?
Yeah, that's a great, you brought up some great points, Joe. Networking outside of work. We can touch on that for a few minutes. So we can think of it this way. If you're not an electrician, are you going to call a plumber to do electrical work? Probably not. And then of the
Right.
plumbers that you know or don't know, how do you narrow it down to someone that you're going to feel comfortable with doing the work? Are you going to just, close your eyes and spin around, 15 times and throw a dart at the dartboard and hope that the name that it lands on is a good one? Or are you going to talk to people, maybe friends or family or coworkers, and say, hey, I need a good plumber. Who do you recommend? That's networking. That's a perfect example of networking. Or maybe you move to a new area and you're looking for, what area of town should I move to? Where, home prices and schools and, availability of shopping and infrastructure, those are things that, maybe you'll depend upon the internet. Maybe you're going to reach out to people that in the area. If you've moved there for a job, maybe you're going to reach out to your boss or maybe some of your coworkers and say, hey, what are your suggestions? What's a good area of town to live in? What's an area of town I should avoid? Is it high traffic? Is it too expensive, for your budget? What works for you? Same with cars. I mean, most of us have our favorite brands and models of cars, but until we determine what our favorite brands and models are, typically we talk to people. Maybe it was our parents or brothers and sisters or family members or friends to say, hey, what kind of car do you like? Does color make a difference on how fast it goes? Yes, it does. Just kidding. Color doesn't matter how fast your car goes.
You sure?
I would like to think that white is the fastest, but I'm pretty sure it's not. I think it's red.
I think you're right.
Some other examples of networking, if we get away from the personal side, jobs. Your next opportunity, whether it's promotion, whether it's advancement, maybe you want a lateral, maybe you want to change careers, maybe you want to change companies, maybe you want to go into business for yourself. These are all great opportunities to talk to people about, you know, what worked for them and what didn't work for them. You know,
Right.
who do you need
Yep.
to know? What are the right people? You know, if you want to move into HR, chances are you're not going to be talking with people in on the engineering side.
Right.
Well, you
Yep.
could, unless, you know,
Yep.
maybe one of your engineering friends knows someone in HR. And there again, maybe it's not directly who you know, but maybe it's someone that you know who knows someone who knows someone.
Right.
That's your
Yep. Yep.
network to find out, hey, can you get me an introduction to Dr. Joe Hamlet? I hear he's looking for a great trainer. I'm interested in learning training, or I am a great trainer, or I've trained in the past, or it's
Right. Yep.
someplace I'm thinking about you know, getting into, but I'm not sure. Maybe I could shadow and get some ideas to see if it's something that really does interest me. Maybe it is. Maybe I'll get in there and be like, yeah, training's not for me. I don't like sitting in front of people or
Right.
standing in front
Right.
of people.
Yep.
So networking is a very powerful and useful tool, especially when it comes to marketing or client base. You know, think of insurance companies. You know, the larger their network is, the more opportunities for growth and expansion an insurance company has. So networking is a very powerful tool, and it's a skill, and it's something that needs to be practiced and cultivated. And, you know, we've heard, go
So,
ahead, Joe.
so that was one area that I was, I'm glad you brought it up now, but I was going to say, that we talk about networking as, hey, just reach out to people. This is probably the challenging part of it, is the fact that you have to get out of your comfort zone, that you have to probably reach out beyond what you're normally going to reach. Like you just said, if I want to get in HR and I'm in maintenance, I'm that's probably not going to be an easy transition. But one transition may be, like you said, you may know somebody that knows somebody in HR,
Mm-hmm.
or you may have to reach out to that department and say, hey, I'm interested in, HR. What do I need to do? So,
Mm-hmm.
me as a maintainer for 20 plus years, that is a challenge, used to getting my hands dirty and twisting wrenches and sockets and things like that. Now to go into an environment where typically that's going to be an office type environment, that's huge. And
Mm-hmm.
so that is one part that is probably one of the challenging pieces of the networking, is that you do have to get out of your comfort zone. Because I'm still that, shy kid in high school, that failed speech. So for me to reach out and to, interact with other people that are, maybe not like me, or in a different environment, that is a challenge. So, if you're listening to this or you're watching this, and Dave said it, that networking piece is, and you got to grow it. You have to develop it. You got to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And so it is one of those things that you do have to, really get into. And like I said, maybe stepping out of your comfort zone. It may be
Mm-hmm.
going to an event,
Yep.
even, say a work event, or even now we're doing so much virtual stuff. It may be you reaching out and, join up on a Zoom call for something else. But
Or watching a
net
podcast, or
Right. Yeah. So it is going to be something that you have to be really intentional about, because you can't just, like I say, you go want to be a HR personnel, but you are maintenance, and you just sit down and say, hey, tell me everything I need to know about being an HR person. So it is, you know, getting into those environments that you may not be used to, and so that is
yeah.
challenging for a lot of people. And me, perfect example, going from maintenance into a more, I went from maintenance in my career to medical, which I had no medical background, and so the way we did things in maintenance was totally different than the way they did things in the medical field. And so just understanding those differences, and accepting those differences, but willing to continue to push forward. So I just wanted, I know Dave was going down that path of, the networking piece, and sometimes it may be challenging to do that. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. And to pull on that thread a little bit more, you know, going back to the cultivation piece, and developing relationships, you need to be genuine and authentic about it. You know,
Right.
you know, you
Yep.
don't want to come across as you know, you don't want to come across as that person that just wants to get something out of someone and then
Yeah.
walk away from it. That's the part about networking that makes it networking, is that it is a give and take. It is a relationship that you need to develop and cultivate and rely upon. It's not, something like, well, I met Joe 5 years ago and I haven't, I said, hi, my name's Dave 5 years ago. And now it's 5 years later. I'm like, hey, Joe, I want something from you. Joe's going to be like, I don't even remember you. 5 years
Right.
ago, you said hi, HI, and that's it.
Right.
That's not developing a relationship. You have to be authentic and, again, genuine with the contribution. And it's reciprocal. It can develop into a friendship, or maybe it is strictly business, but there is a relationship that needs to be cultivated.
Well, and I know we'll probably touch on this, in later shows, but it really almost turns into like a mentor mentee
I was
type of
just going to say that.
relationship,
Yeah.
because it is a give and take. Like you say, you can't just bust in the door and say, hey, like I say, at the example I used earlier, a maintenance guy going or girl going into an HR environment saying, hey, teach me everything I know, and then walk away.
Mm.
That's exactly what you said. It is probably going to should be a mutual relationship that's built. And for me, that's probably the most common, um, or what resembles the most of a mentor mentee relationship. Because again, the networking piece is I reach out to someone, and then we have that interaction. We start to build upon that, and then it's easier for that transition or that transfer of knowledge, so to speak, to occur, because we're both gaining something from this. And because, yeah, if you just sit down and say, hey, give me what you got, and I'm going to move on, people are going to be reluctant to accept you into their circle. So I think that's very important that you brought that up.
Yeah, and especially since the pandemic, and I know uh, there are reports that we're kind of like starting to ease back out, and we won't go down that path right now. But with COVID, it's really opened our eyes to what networking is. In the media, they talked about your bubbles or your spheres, if you will, of
Mhm.
who you associate with, and to limit who you associate with. Those bubbles or spheres of people that you associate with are part of your network, either at work or at home or in your life. And if we think about, we'll use the term bubbles, you know, one of my bubbles is Joe and what we do, with the podcast and how we work together. But then Joe knows people, and Joe's people know people. And then Dave, me, I know people outside of Joe. And then those people know people, and those people know people. So when we talk about, what our networks really look like, they tend to be very organic, because it's it's not, I wouldn't say it's not common or uncommon, but it's just not typical to reach out to someone blindly across, halfway around the world that you've never met before, know nothing about, again, that randomizer, if you will, and you're just going to type in random people on the internet, and then here's a name, you just reach out to them, and that's your thing. It's typically not how networking works. It can, but typically not. And so we need to understand that there are relationships and connections with our different bubbles, if you will. And then those bubbles might actually, that person 2 or 3 levels down, or what have you, might say, oh, well, yeah, I know Joe from over here.
Right.
But the
Yep.
first 3 people that I talked to, this layer, that layer, that layer, they didn't know Joe. But that fourth layer
Exactly.
deep, they did know Joe. So now there's a connection there, and we can start those introductions, or those, that relationship building, or planting those seeds of communicating and getting to know each other to see, is this something that's viable? Maybe, going back to the plumber example, maybe the plumber is, maybe that particular plumber that I reached out to does commercial plumbing, and I
Right.
need a plumber for my home, residential. Maybe that plumber doesn't do residential plumbing, but they know someone who does residential plumbing. That might be an opportunity for me to explore. Or if I'm not comfortable with that, maybe I check into someone else in my network to see if they know someone.
Right.
So, um, again, benefits, cultivating relationships, taking it back to work, to Joe's example, going from maintenance into medical, that's a big leap sometimes. But there again, it depends. If you have a mentor or a coach
Yep.
in your workplace, that can be a connection to say, hey, do you know someone that can help me navigate this transition from point A to point B? So I don't have to take the long scenic route to get over
Right.
here that takes me 2 years. Maybe it only takes 2 months, because there's a much more direct approach, because we're not reinventing that proverbial wheel
Right.
and starting from scratch. Um, Another piece of networking is, again, the job piece. If we're talking about moving into a new job or career, having people help you with those opportunities. For those of us who have had the fortunate or unfortunate experience of being laid off, depending on your perspective, sometimes it's a blessing in disguise.
Right.
Um, that networking can be crucial or critical. If you know that there's going to be a reorg or a downsizing or restructuring, you've got a little time to be proactive. Reach out to your network and say, hey, I might be coming available soon. What opportunities do you have for me to lateral or promote or try something new? Or in the event that it's kind of a, hey, Dave, we want to talk to you. It's been great, buddy. Catch you later. Been nice.
Right.
Now you're caught off guard. What do? Your whole world can come crashing down, right? We've got bills, we've got kids, we've got mortgages and credit cards, and we've got things. We got to put food on the table and keep the electricity on. Who do you reach out to? That's where your network comes in. Your network comes in handy. Is it through an online profile or platform? Is it picking up the phone? Is it
Right.
sending out a few emails to some trusted colleagues to say, hey, I'm in a bit of a pickle here. Can you help me out? Or do you know someone that can? Or do you have any opportunities or know of any opportunities or someone with opportunities? Absolutely crucial and critical for getting back on your feet, because, and I cannot remember the number, but a majority of jobs that are secured through a form of networking.
Yep.
And that's an important thing to keep in mind. If you're applying for a job, whatever job it is, and there's you and someone else, and everything's being fair and equal, you have the same qualifications, same education, same experience, you're practically twins, with the only exception is that the hiring manager knows this person and they don't know you. What is the likelihood that they're going to go with the unfamiliar?
Right.
It's going to be a lot lower than going with who they do know versus someone that they don't know, or someone that can vouch for that person. That's
Right.
part of that networking. That's your references. Go ahead.
Well, that's why a lot of companies, that is what they do, is they use a referral system because they're having faith or trusting that the employee is going to refer somebody that's going to be of value to that organization. And to your point, if you had two people that were aligned career wise, professional wise, and that's the deciding factor, one is known and the other is not, then that may be the application where this
may be the deciding factor.
Exactly. So that is important. And that's why I think a lot of organizations have gone down this path of the referral system, just because, again, most people are not going to refer someone that they don't think can do the job or have the aptitude or the abilities to do it. So that organization is relying on that person, that employee, judgment and their sense of who they think might fit that organization. So that you're right, that piece of knowing people and like you said, in the case of that you might be in a situation where you may need assistance down the road, having people in your network that you can reach out to and kind of explain your situation, that they may have the ability to lead you to potential job opportunity or things like that. So, or even if they don't know of a job, they may have someone, like you mentioned, their bubbles, that they may be able to reach out in their network and refer you to someone else. So networking is very important. You're no longer on an island. You may have some indirect connections with people that may be able to assist you down the road, and not just today's point earlier, not just to manipulate those relationships,
Right.
but to build and cultivate those relationships to down the road that they could turn into something different. So just being open to network, to growing the network, to getting to know people, to stepping out of your comfort zone are all important as
Mhm.
far as networking.
Yeah, and networking is it's not just for those individuals that are above you in higher level positions. Those are great. Those are great people to have in your network. But so are the people that you work with, or that maybe report to you, or that are more entry level. Just because they're entry level does not mean that they're not experienced and not um, have transferable skills, and people that would be great additions to your network.
Right.
I guess it's back to the adage of, don't burn any bridges, or,
Right.
don't discount people that are uh, below you in position, because you never know when you're going to wind up working for them.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
it is what it is, and everyone is an opportunity for us to get to know, if nothing else, as other human beings. And, maybe you can help each other, maybe you can't, but sometimes it's nice just to reach out to people to get to know them for who they are. And if something
Right.
great happens down the line, then you've got
Yeah.
someone
It's a
in your
bonus.
network. And if
Absolutely.
not, no harm, no foul.
Right.
There's nothing
Right.
bad that can really come out of it, typically.
Right. Right. No,
So,
you touched on it earlier. It's just about building those relationships. Like you said, it maybe not be for the intent to get a job or anything like that, but it's just reaching out and connecting with other people. And like I say, now we have so many platforms that you can do that. You again, you no longer have to be on an island by yourself. There's so many avenues, so many opportunities to get to know other people, and to interact with people, and that's key. And like I say, I'm thinking about my shy, you know, 16, 15 or 16-year-old self, and just thinking if I would have done that way back when, my network would be huge right now. But overcoming that fear of reaching out and interacting with people, helped me back a lot of years. So, but that is the challenging part. I know a lot of people struggle with meeting new people, reaching out, putting yourself out there, and this is all part of that networking piece.
yeah.
But you'd
And
be amazed at the growth that you gain by doing this.
Yeah, and you mentioned something really important I want to touch on briefly in our last few minutes here, and that is the connection piece. It doesn't have, it can be work related connection, it can be a personal connection. Maybe the person you connect with likes to work on cars, or likes to do DIY projects, or likes, dogs or cats or whatever, or maybe there's some commonality with your children or schools or sports. you know One of the stories I like to share is, one of my jobs early in my career. There's two individuals that absolutely despised working with each other, and the other supervisors would not schedule them together. And that can create some hindrances, especially from a team perspective, because you have to have each
Right.
other's back. What I did is I got to know each one of those individuals, realized that they had a shared interest, and then I started working them together. And at first, they they despised me for it.
Right.
I think if they could have captured me in the parking lot in a dark alley, they would have taken full advantage of the scenario. But
Right.
when I introduced them, I shouldn't say introduced, they knew each other. When I partnered them to work together, they were not happy about it. And what I left them with was, hey, so and so, did you know that so and so also likes X topic?
Right.
And they
Right.
muttered and went their separate ways. And then within a week or two, you almost couldn't separate them. They had
Right.
made I'd found that connection, that common thread
Yep.
that they shared. And to your point, making that connection, finding that common thread that can pull you and that other person together to form that relationship, which is a necessary foundation for networking.
Right.
Any
Yep.
last thoughts before we close out, Joe?
I think we both have covered a bunch of this, but like I say, I'm just going to refer back to my shy self, but the benefits of joining a network, or being willing to reach out and extend your network, and like I said, it may not just be for the intent of getting another position, but it's more about the connection piece, and building that
The support
relationship with
piece.
other people. And for leaders, especially, if you want to, develop your team, if you want to grow your team, it still starts with that individual connection, like Dave just explained with that scenario he gave. If you know your people, then you have a better chance of being successful, because you know how to, get the work out of them, in this regard. You know where their strengths lie, where their weaknesses lie, and you're able to use those to help build that effective team. And so networking, it goes across work, family, it goes across personal. But networking is huge. And like I say, we have so many platforms today that there's no reason for you to be alone on an island. It's all for the taking. So that's where I wanted to finish off. Kind of rambled a little bit, but
no, it's all good. It's all good. Very good points. Well stated. So with that, we'll go ahead and close out this episode on networking. Until next time, keep on being your not so ordinary you.
All right.